Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got a personal experience that I just finally need to get off my chest. Unfortunately, I don't have any evidence, anything to show you, but I'm not here to try and impress you or prove you anything. I'm just telling everybody my experiences and trying to show people my experiences. So this happened back in 2020, June 6th, D-Day 2020, back in a spot that I call Headless Raven. It's probably my favorite spot, the place where I've had a lot of things happen. So far, I've never had a sighting yet, but I've had some strange things happen here, things I can't explain prior to this. This was really my first shocking event. My interest in this topic is strictly as a hobbyist. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, and so I don't have any specific methods that I use. I'm a troubleshooter by trade in a communications field. And so I'm just going out here looking for things in the woods, things that don't fit in, just to see what I can find. I'm not trying to make anything happen. I'm just trying to document what I might find. It took a while to find some locations to do that in. And this is one of those. It's just a very strange place, and things happen nearly every time I go. At this point, I'm looking at different channels. I'm trying to find other channels where people are going out and looking for things and methods they might use. Not so much the people retelling stories, but I was definitely convinced at this point that there's Sasquatch everywhere. How come I have never seen one in my life, or how come I've never seen any of this stuff? I've had 2 years experience in this area. I go back every 2 or 3 months, or if I'm working in the area, I'd stop in this place. And so I had cameras in here, and I would go and regularly change the batteries and the memory cards. On this trip, after watching Mitch Waite's channel, where he had some methodology to what he did, he would wear the same clothing so that possibly he was recognized when he would go out. So I started doing that a while back. The purpose being that by not wearing camouflage, I would show possibly that my intended purpose wasn't to go out and hunt or fire a gun at anything. The camera. I was wearing red shirts, or I would change into a red shirt, or try to when I went, so that the guy in the black truck with the red shirt is, doesn't shoot at me. Was my mentality. And I would try to leave apples or nuts or something there, so that when I left, I'm maybe the good guy, because I would go by myself and I really didn't want to get hurt. I'm just curious. And I've never been afraid of bears. I've never been afraid of mountain lions, snakes. I go out in the woods all the time by myself. At this point, I'm hearing different stories. Some things are bad, some things are good. I really don't want to have a bad experience. I was sort of off and on carrying a gun, not really sure what I should be doing. I would have pretty regular patterns. I would pull into a certain spot. I would try and turn my truck around. I would flip on a dash cam to cover what I would assume where I would be if I was watching somebody here. I'd be on the uphill side. My cameras were on the downhill side of this road. And if something's watching me, it's probably on the uphill side of the road. So I never really went to the uphill side. I tried to keep my stuff on the lower side of the road. This is my little area here where I'm trying to study stuff. On this time in, I thought, what the heck? I'll park up the road. I had the wind blowing at me, and I'm going to sneak up the ridge on the uphill side and come in on foot and not park where I normally park. I'm going to approach on foot quietly and go uphill. I had nothing but a cell phone. Left my gun in the truck. I have a Garmin emergency locator unit. I left that in the truck. And I just decided to walk up this hill. The wind's kind of blowing at me. And I started getting this creeped out feeling. And all these trees, medium-sized, smaller trees, are all folded over, they're still alive, but pushed into the road, like making me have to either push through them or walk around them. And it was sort of like a keep-out look to me. Sneaking my way down. At this point, I have exposed myself, so I'm coming back down the ridge, above where I would normally park, but below the top of the ridge. So I'm kind of in the middle, is how to explain it. Because I noticed a tree that was cut and had fallen and looked like it had wedged between some other trees on the ground. But then there were 2 more trees on top of that had the roots attached that were wedged in there as well. So it was 3 trees kind of wedged in between some other trees, and it wasn't all that crazy, but I just thought I'll go ahead and record it with my phone. Just record everything, throw out what you're not going to ever use, just documenting and documenting. So anyway, I was just explaining, it's a little bit weird. And I had just finished recording. It's about 12:30, and this enormous impact happened. About 20 feet away from me, uphill, something hit a tree, and it had to have been a rock probably the size of a grapefruit, I would guess.
Looking at these big down trees, and something just threw a big-ass rock at one of the trees nearby me.
But it penetrated the bark of the tree. It hit the tree so hard, I would guess 20 feet away. I'm pretty sure I know the tree it hit, but I'm standing on one side of these fallen trees, and the impact happened on the uphill side into a standing tree. And the impact shook the ground, shook my chest, made me stop breathing, and sort of made my heart stop all at the same time, just instantly. And your mind just sort of resets all of a sudden. Holy crap. You know what it was, but you're trying to guess it's something else. Did the tree just break in the middle or something? Like, what happened? And then it's sort of panic. Here I'm standing. Now I'm pretty sure I know what happened. And your mind goes through all the things that you've heard. Okay, there's probably more than one of them here. I don't have a gun. I'm by myself. I'm away from my truck. And it was sort of like an adrenaline dump. And so you got super anxious, super fearful. And you're assuming you pissed something off, because why would that have happened? So I predict that I snuck up on something that couldn't leave. It probably was bedded down or was behind a tree and didn't want to run away because I had closed the distance on it maybe. So anyway, now my mind's thinking, now what? Run down the hill and get to the road and maybe a car will pass. This is a place where cars do not drive by forever. So I don't expect that anybody would come by, but I felt safer maybe trying to get down to the road and walking back to my truck rather than go back the way I came. But then I stood there thinking, why am I here? This is what I came here for. What was I expecting? I'm kind of a dummy if I have that happen and go home, but I was so terrified at that point. I mean, I'm so shocked all of a sudden that all I could think was try to pretend you have more people with you than there are, which is talk out loud. So I tried to record again uphill. I just turned my cell phone on and thought to myself, I'm going to walk right back to my truck. So I said it out loud. This is all I'm doing here. I'm just doing this. I'm just going to walk back to my truck. And I was blathering. I was recording video of the ground as I walked. I was so shook up that I wasn't recording anything other than for the reason of me talking, or, I was just didn't know what was going on. And so, I walked back to my truck. I sat in my truck for a long time thinking, I'm just going home. I still had all my cameras and my batteries to go check, and I was ready to just leave. And I sat in my truck and had to sit there and think about that for a long time. And I thought, I was trying to convince myself that I'm a chicken. Why would you drive out here like an hour and a quarter, hour and a half, and then turn right around and go home because that happened? This is exactly why you're out here. And I still couldn't really buck up. I thought, I'm just going to go down the road, and maybe I can go investigate a new area. It was just kind of funny. So I drove down the road, and I stared at myself in the mirror, and I didn't want to get out of the truck. And I was kind of mad at myself, too, that I was too chicken to go back to my cameras. And it took a long time, and then finally I'm like, heck with it. I'm going back to my spot. I'm going to go park where I normally park. I'm strapping on a gun, and I'm going to record with a whole bunch of stuff. So I thought the more cameras I had turned on and audio recorders, that if something happened, I was going to catch it, or if nothing happened, I was safe. So it was kind of a false sense of security, but having the gun back on got me through that. So I actually did go walk down there, scared as heck, sort of talking out loud, pretending that something can hear what I'm saying, and I'm just explaining I'm here. I'm just going to change my stuff, and then I'm going to leave. And I went through everything, pretty freaked out. And I had an adrenaline dump. I had the shakes. I had anxiety, difficulty breathing, probably for at least 4 hours. I mean, I was still shook up when I went home, and it was just one of the craziest things that has happened to me, but I have no evidence of it. I have nothing to show anybody, except for some video of me talking to myself in my truck right after it happened.
Well, today I've got like 4 game cameras I was going to change the batteries on out in Trinity County. And I stopped on a ridge before I got to my spot and decided to hike another area into the wind, kind of disguising myself. It's pretty windy today. And I got about 15 minutes into it and something smacked a freaking tree with a sound like a rock. I'm gonna have to guess, man, softball size, maybe a little smaller, but hard. Just cracked. So I don't know if it was a knock on a tree or something threw it at the tree, but it was probably about 20 feet from me. Stopped my heart in my freaking chest, like, and I'm by myself. I've got guns in the truck, but I didn't bring them with me. I was just kind of scouting. So anyway, looks like Forest Service is driving by. I might have to get out of here, maybe.
Anyway, this is a lot of babbling, but I don't know how else to describe it or finally get rid of this. But yeah, so far this is like the most shocking thing, and I'm not sure what to think of it. Have I offended something? I think I just surprised something because the wind was in my favor. There was a lot of things that happened there. I was being really quiet, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe these things have the advantage no matter what. I just don't know. I had never had a rock thrown at this point in this area. So I had a rock thrown at my truck prior to this in another county. Same thing. What the heck was that? Shocked me. I was, a whole different video. I can show you a little bit of a clip of that. But then after this happened, I'm home and I'm scrubbing through some old game camera footage, and I actually had found a piece of quartz that was being thrown at some deer in the middle of the night. So it's an event that happened earlier than this, but I had skipped over it or didn't see it until later, and then I actually had pretty good confirmation that rocks do get thrown over here, and what happened to me was not so crazy, although it still is crazy. It's big enough that a man couldn't have thrown it like that, and then my mind couldn't really describe this to people for a while. I'm like, you don't understand, I'm trying to describe a word that would equal how hard it hit. And so, vibration, shock, those words weren't big enough. And I had finally heard a few days later, concussion, and I'm like, that's exactly what happened. It hit so hard. It just created such a concussion that it shook me. And it didn't hit me. It didn't hit near me. It was just such a crazy, intense concussion that you knew instantly if that would have hit you, you'd be dead. There would be no bouncing off your head. You wouldn't have a bloody sore. That would have killed you for sure. And so that's the thing I think that makes you have a little respect all of a sudden. It's a very strange hobby. You guys have a good day, and thanks for listening.